Welcome to the July Games Roundup. We have got big titles from Capcom, Sony, and a whole ton of indies that are setting us up for an incredibly busy month in gaming. Let's just dive in. At some point in July, likely very early, we'll be seeing the reveal and release of Season 1 of Diablo 4. That's where we're going to get to see how controversial their plan is to mesh the seasonal model with the more broad audience that Diablo 4 has been able to get. Blizzard are of course promising new story, new mechanics, and new quests alongside their first seasonal battle pass. But if we move on to the full games, up on the 6th of July we have Gylt. Created by Tequila Works, this is the latest narrative adventure game from the creators of Rime and the Sexy Brutale. But oddly enough, it's actually the second release of this game. Not that you would have noticed the first, because that was on Stadia, and Stadia is now rather dead. Moving on to the 12th of July, we've got Oxenfree 2 Lost Signals. Coming from the team at Night School Studios, this is the sequel to the smash hit narrative adventure game that was lauded by critics for its blend of cosmic horror and a truly incredible conversation system. A point of interest here, this will be the first test of Netflix's new publishing apparatus, releasing a game that they actually own on all platforms. So yes, that means Netflix publishing a video game on Steam. Pretty odd. Of course, given Night School's history, most people are expecting this to be pretty damn good. Only one day later, Capcom's Exoprimal is there to show us what the future of warfare will truly look like, in the form of a PvPvE dinosaur battler. Two teams in a variety of mech suits compete in parallel dinosaur wave-based battles as they race to complete objectives before then facing off in a PvP challenge that sees both teams battle their fellow man and also dinosaur. It's a thoroughly odd concept for a game. It's no Dino Crisis, but Capcom would very much like a live service game to actually take off for them, and this new IP is very much one of those efforts. A retro throwback awaits for us on the 14th. The Jagged Alliance series is returning with its third entry, only 22 years after the last one. This is another game revival headed up by a company underneath the massive umbrella of Embracer. It's published by THQ Nordic, and it's actually developed by the same people who did Tropico and Surviving Mars. So it's essentially taking the modern warfare real-time strategy game that we knew and trying to do a modern hardcore revival. THQ themselves are actually very aware that this is a contentious topic. They spoke to Rock Paper Shotgun at the time of the announcement, saying that there's been a lot of titles that have released since Jagged Alliance 2 that have been mixed from the core fan base, and he essentially said it's a really big deal that they actually get into what the hardcore Jagged Alliance fans actually have, and that they reevaluate everything they've done through the lens of those hardcore fans. So essentially, they're trying a revival, and they're actually targeting it at the hardcore fanbase of that game. That being said, the last one, at least the last proper one, was 22 years ago. Time will only tell if they've succeeded, but based on Embracer's most recent output, honestly, that's got to be a 50-50. Then on the 18th, prepare to develop your mind as Viewfinder releases. It comes from Sad Owl Studios and their publisher Thunderful. Basically, it's a mind-bending indie puzzle game that's channeling a bunch of Superliminal and Portal. So you're essentially taking pictures, you're framing them against the world, and then you're using the contents to solve puzzles and to explore. This is one that I think has to be seen to be believed, right? You have to play with the toy to understand it. But suffice to say, it's been a very highly anticipated game from really the first moment that GIFs of its mechanics started to go across social media. That day also sees the early access of Xenonauts 2. Yes, the team at Goldhawk Interactive are making a game that's less sequel and more an alternate bite at the apple. This time built in Unity with 3D graphics and all the benefits that brings, as well as a much more grounded narrative. It's an isometric combat strategy game that is really taking that path led by the original XCOM, seeing you manage bases, defend Earth's airspace, and engage in classic turn-based battles. It's nice to see this genre heat up. We have XCOM 2, we have the likes of its mods like Long War, we've got Phoenix Point, Xenonauts is going strong. It's certainly nice to see. Moving on to the 21st, we actually get the first mainline Pikmin game in 10 years coming from Nintendo. It's a funny little franchise, right? A cutesy strategy game where you're watching the bodies of your fallen troops spill from the mouths of monsters that eat them as their souls rise to the heavens. Yeah, Pikmin's insane. This time, though, you've got no time limit, character customization, a controllable dog companion, and the promise of night missions and dungeon challenges to ramp up the threat. Moving to the 25th, we have The Remnant II. This is a game published by Gearbox. It's developed by Gunfire Games, and, unsurprisingly, it is the sequel to the cult hit Remnant from the Ashes. It's available in single and co-op play, and it's a third-person action game that has a curious structure. Its story is fixed, but the enemy layouts, the level design, even boss and NPC appearances on each level are randomly assigned, and that essentially means that new character builds, weapon testing, and replayability are all heavily present and are going to be even more prominent here. As much as I do hear a lot of that myself and I think, right, random stuff, well, it's a sequel of a very popular game that did all of that quite successfully, so there is reason to be happy. Now, next then in the 26th, we don't have a new release, but it is notable, and that is that Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is going to be arriving on PC. Promising, of course, a full suite of PC features, ultra-wide support, unlocked frame rates, full graphical options, and the PC implementation of their temporal injection tech for managing dynamic resolutions. Sony have, of course, a lot of ground to make up for in the porting space after the absolutely atrocious showing that was The Last of Us Part 1. That port was rough, so certainly wait until the reviews hit before you pick this one up. Then, one of the more curious releases, and one that I'm very excited for personally, being a fan of the franchise, we've got The Expanse, a Telltale series by Deck 9 and Telltale Games. It's set as a prequel to the TV show where you are following along Kamina Drummer on a story of some sort. I've purposefully stayed blind to this. I don't really want to know what it's about because I want to experience this slice of The Expanse going in fresh. But certainly expect people to remember your actions and all of that. It is, of course, a revival of that Telltale model, right? The first episode comes out on the 27th, and then another episode comes out every 2 weeks after that. Certainly an interesting way of doing things. I wonder if they're trying to drum up some talk there, and while so much of the industry has moved away from the episodic model, I suppose the way they're doing it every 2 weeks at least means that it won't be so long between episodes that people will quite simply wander away and forget. Then we've got a curious game, which is Disney Illusion Island on the 28th. It's a 4-player platformer from Delilah Studios. It's Switch exclusive. No combat, just platforming, and you get your health back by hugging each other. So, seemingly a low-stakes family game sort of thing. Absolutely different to Disney's next release this year, which will be Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, where I've got to imagine you'll be inflicting a hell of a lot of death and destruction. The last game for the month then is a charmer. It is Venba from Visual Studios. It's a beautifully rendered narrative game where you'll be playing cooking mini-games and exploring a narrative where family, food, and culture intertwine. Finally, July is then seeing 2 separate game-related TV shows. First, we've got Resident Evil Death Island on the 7th of July. This is a CG movie that is fully canon to the rest of the franchise, as opposed to the live-action movies that somehow make money at the box office, and I think are sort of hated and also sort of loved for how terrible they are. But yes, this is a full, proper, canon piece of Resident Evil media, which, to be honest, isn't saying much. The track record in terms of quality here is thoroughly all over the place. Then, and rather surprisingly, we've got Twisted Metal, which is on Peacock, and it's from PlayStation Productions. It comes in at the 27th of July. Yeah, weird. I actually totally forgot about this. The first real footage of this turned out at the Summer Games Fest, where we've got Anthony Mackie, Will Arnett, and Samoa Joe doing voices. The footage did also happen to look bad. So unless this is a dramatic improvement, I don't think this is going to be another big PlayStation-led hit like The Last of Us. But anyway, if you would like to support our team and what we do, you can pick up The Pale Beyond. The link will be down below. And, we're on the summer sale, so now certainly is a pretty snazzy time to get it. Anyhow, check out the video we published yesterday. There will be a new one tomorrow, so be sure to subscribe for that. I'll see you next time.